Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. But what on earth will Stephanie get out of this Romeo and Juliet unit? I was met with those words from a very angry English teacher who was looking at me and speaking to me so close that spit was hitting me in the face. And I had to stop and I had to compose myself because I was going to be rude. And Stephanie is a student who happens to have Down syndrome as an attribute, and this English teacher was angry that Stephanie was to be included in this 11th grade English class. So I answered in kind of a snarky way and said, quite frankly, what did any of us get out of Romeo and Juliet? And this person looked at me as if it was absolute blasphemy. And I had to realize that, hey, wait a minute. Why? Why does Stephanie have to prove that she's going to get something out of Romeo and Juliet when nobody else in the class has to prove they're going to get something out of Romeo and Juliet?
Well, Julie, it's like, I don't even want to tell you what my teacher did during Romeo and Juliet. I think you've heard the story before, but it'll just gross people out. And that's going to leave them wondering what they did. But just remember, friends, I grew up in Idaho, so it could be any number of things.
Wow. I'm picturing a balcony scene that you had to act out or something. Anyway,
it's just so interesting, isn't it? That I'm sure it was called the unintended curriculum because I have a very distinct memory of my English teacher who was also a football coach about Romeo and Juliet. But I don't remember much about Romeo and Juliet. And I don't really know what is the standard or the standards that we're teaching via Romeo and Juliet. I just don't.
And in this case, when asked further, it's a classic. Everybody needs to know this, but how will she understand? How will she comprehend? How will she be able to understand how to read Shakespeare? She only reads at a fourth grade level. There's no possible way, right?
I can't read Shakespeare. Okay, so everybody's gonna be like, I'm gonna turn off the podcast now. But classic from a white dominant culture, classic in the terms of nobody needs it these days. I know a bunch of reading people and ELA people are going to be like, no, we do. But I would want to hear deeper. Don't use Shakespeare as the example, but tell me what is the core competency that humans benefit.
Yeah. And I'm certain there are defensible reasons for all of us to learn Romeo and Juliet. So I'm certain that let's just keep that as if this is a very important skill to have and understand. Let's just hold that there. And so
don't argue that part with you.
You can, but it's like I'm not going to be able to really respond in
because you got as much as I did out of it. Got it.
I watched the movie of it actually. So right before my report was due is how I did it personally as a student. So I argued with this person for a long time. It was a court case actually. So we won and Stephanie had to be in Romeo and Juliet and all the other classics that were being read in 11th grade that year. And so what I think is interesting about this is there's this concept or this idea that people have to prove they're going to learn something, retain something, know something, and be able to use it in some way when nobody else at a higher standard than anyone else without a disability has to reach that bar. I think the most interesting part of this story for me happens during the actual Romeo and Juliet lesson. And I helped make sure, I helped make sure that Stephanie was getting accommodations and modifications. So lots of really great ways to get access to the content. And she happened to love it. Love, love, love it.
You go, Stephanie.
Right? More than.
See, it's just right there because I wouldn't like it or get anything out of it. I'm like, nobody needs it. And then it's like, oh, wait, it really elevated some people's lives.
Correct. And so I was like, we were doing this, they were supposed to do this project about it where they shared all that they learned about it. And Stephanie chose to do a PowerPoint presentation. Christy, if you saw this presentation, you would have fallen on the floor because why? She knew more about Romeo and Juliet than almost anyone in the class. She had the characters down, the setting, the plot. She understood the details related to the arguments with the family. She understood, she was in it. She understood it. And her PowerPoint demonstration blew us all away.
It's like Housewives of some city.
Correct.
Like
Right.
if you look at it, the drama, the feud, the generational lines that were drawn, you could see how
Yes.
somebody could get into that.
That's right. And so, what did she get out of it? Joy, understanding, comprehension, a PowerPoint that blew everyone's mind, deep, deep preference for Shakespeare and this type of learning. And all of us, even I, was stunned to say, I didn't expect her to love it like this. And for me, it was just a bunch of learning for both me and the English teacher, who we eventually became friends because this person really realized that Stephanie can get so much out of anything. Today's podcast episode is about what will they get out of this?
Yeah, so we're going to really give you some ideas, and then we're going to kind of circle back around to this kind of overarching question about what will they get. And the they in this part of the story is a student with a disability or a disability label. We probably ask it, maybe we should ask it more often of all of our students as we think about our limited time, because we hear often we don't have enough time to cover. And then we adopt more out of the box curriculums that, make us go faster, and we can't possibly give the depth and attention to it. So we probably should be asking the question more often. But in this episode, it's really a question that people are using as an argument to do exclusion or remediation or pull out, pull over, pull aside. So that's the context. We're going to talk about what the solution is, and then we'll kind of come full circle with this question.
The solution is to be prepared to respond to these things. The solution is to have 20 ideas about how to handle that question. Because honestly, when that English teacher was that close to me with spit hitting me in the face and they were so angry.
It's hard to think.
It's hard to think. And we were coming from two different worlds. My world is Stephanie is capable. She's so willing. She's engaged. She will probably like it enough to get through it. That's kind of what I thought. And this person was saying, if she can't decode it, how can she learn it?
All right. So the download for this episode, which you can get at inclusiveschooling.com/download 45, we have 20 powerful responses. Now, as always, we're going to read a few to you. You can always pause this, or remember you want to come back and download it. You can edit it, make it your own so it sounds like how you would talk. But we wanted to get you started so that you had a response for when people question like placement based upon what you'll get out of it. Because placement questions have nothing to do with what will you get out of it.
Yeah. So, Christy, I'm going to share a little bit more about Stephanie and number 8, which is long-term successes. So I'm just going to explain that in the handout. It's number 8 is just, it says long-term successes, and it says inclusive education prepares all students for real world experiences where they will interact with diverse individuals, promoting a more inclusive society. So relatedly, Stephanie happens to be in an airport and she sees someone with a Great Gatsby t-shirt on. One of the big units was the Great Gatsby. The two of them got involved in a conversation in the airport about the Great Gatsby, and Stephanie's mother reported it to me to say, look at this, real world connections with strangers in the airport about high level texts and rich discussion. This is what I want out of inclusion, right? So that's just one response, and there are so many more.
I'm going to pick, it's hard because it's hard to pick. I'll just pick number 20.
Okay.
So number 20 is about empathy and understanding. And I think we often discount the importance of students having the opportunity to learn empathy and to gain understanding about diversity. We sometimes talk about it, but when we worry about things aren't fair, we have another episode about things aren't being fair. You'll hear a common theme in our podcast. I think it's because we think people just come with. Now, humans do come with an innate ability to understand, perspective take, have empathy and compassion. But it's like a reading skill. It's like an ELA skill of any kind. We need to practice it. We need to see it. We need to use it under challenging circumstances. And when better to use empathy than when somebody thinks differently than us? So I feel like number 20 about empathy and understanding, it's like not just among students, but when we allow the whole community to say, everybody's going to get something different out of this. And I'm not judging whether you like it or you don't like it or you learned it or you didn't. Then I think we have an opportunity to practice our compassion, our empathy for the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christy, I'm just going to share one more strategy. So, we've already kind of talked about the how. How do you deal with this? You deal with it directly and you deal with it with a really well crafted response instead of ignoring it or going, I don't know, right? It's like you have to be prepared with a response or several to say it's her right to be in this class, whether she can decode or not. And she will, I'm going to presume that she's going to get a lot out of it. I'm going to also talk about number 11, which I think was very powerful if you were there experiencing what I got to experience. Number 11 is called Learning Styles, and it says, students learn in different ways, and inclusive classrooms provide varied teaching methods that cater to diverse learning styles benefiting everyone. Well, why I added that is because in the past, in that classroom, the only way to get the text was to read it with your own eyes silently. That was us. No, sorry, some chapters were read out loud or parts. Great. Besides that, it was auditory and visual only. Well, because Stephanie was in the classroom, we had audiobooks at the ready. So you could listen to the entire thing if you wanted to. We had the video or several versions of the video of Romeo and Juliet, and people could watch sections as they went. There were discussion groups about it. We had to really make this content come to life for Stephanie. But guess what? It came to life for everyone because of Stephanie. And so it really, when you add access points or learning styles, all of a sudden you're giving more people more access to really understand the nuances in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, and you can get these 20 responses to the question, but what will this student get out of this class or unit or at inclusiveschooling.com/download 45. And I would just say, Julie, as we wrap up, that you won't always hear the question being posed as, but what will they get out of this class? I think there's some variations that I just want to highlight, and maybe you have a couple in mind too. Like, people won't even ask as a question. They'll make it as a statement. They're not ready for this. They'll say things like they can get more or better support elsewhere. So I think those are still variations of this same question that doesn't always get posed as a question, but it's like something under that umbrella. So these 20 responses are still applicable if you hear they're not ready or if you hear I can better meet their needs somewhere else.
Or they don't belong here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
same kind of thing. And so instead of asking that question, what will the student get out of the class? You also might be prepared to say, Stephanie has a right to be in this class, and our question is this. What do we as educators need to do to support this student to be successful in this class? So we kind of turn it around, and that's another strategy or another way to get people to understand that we're asking the wrong question here.
All right. So be sure to get your download at inclusiveschooling.com/download 45. And we'd love to hear any additions or edits and how you respond to, but what will they get out of this class?
Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.